really great show. I've been trying to get this guest on here, but he's been extremely busy, and I've been able to work him into the schedule. And I really appreciate him being here. But tonight, before I introduce our guest, I just want to tell you who we are and what we're about, because that's what America is about. We're still allowed to tell the truth. We're still allowed to tell it like it is, and we are not being shadow banned at this point in time. So we're going to continue doing what we do, and we're going to do it the best we can. And always know it's your America. It doesn't belong to the government. It doesn't belong to the president. It don't belong to the White House. It doesn't belong to the legislator. It does not belong to Congress. It belongs to you. It's your America. It belongs to you, we the people, and every one of us that vote each and every day, because it's the best country in the world. We might get frustrated with it. We may not like what goes on in it, but we all have a voice in it, and we can all make the changes that we need to make. We're not like any other country. We're a third world country out there. Although we may have a president think we are, that we don't have a voice and we don't have an opportunity to vote. I don't mind telling you that. It's definitely different times, hard times for a lot of people right now. But without further ado, let me introduce our guest tonight, and it's Antoine Thomas, former national director and member engagement of BLEXIT National Overseas, the BLEXIT state chapters, BLEXIT founders, Candace Owens and Brandon Tatum state chapters. He's just been a busy guy, and it's he and I kind of crossed paths quite a bit through the campaigns, not intentionally, but we ended up traveling in the same circles, and here we are today. And I'm proud to say the circles we traveled in. I worked really hard for our North Carolina Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, who was a true warrior, a fighter, a champion among champions, and it's the guy that he will run into the fire with you, and he'll run back out. He'll be the first one in and the last one out. And guess what? We're gonna be standing right there next to him when we come out when the smoke clears, because he deserves it. He's worth it. He's there with us each and every day. He fights for law enforcement, and he fights hard. He doesn't back down, and he fights for the voters of North Carolina. I'll tell you, when you look at him, he is Mr. North Carolina. Can't say anything different. So kudos to Mark Robinson. We love you, brother. Keep doing what you're doing. We want you there for you. We're looking for you when you become governor. We're going to be standing there right with you. So Antoine, tell us a little bit of what's going on, and what's your your life's taking some turns here and there, and you're doing some different things. Kind of update what we're doing, and I kind of stole something from your website earlier. I saw something up there about Deputy Oscar Anavesia Jr., who was killed in the line of duty recently. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure, let's talk about that. Came across my feed, and let me tell you that as we venture, throughout. I'm sorry, go right ahead. Are you having trouble hearing me there?
Yeah, you're kind of fading in and out.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Okay, how about now?
I got you.
Good. Sorry about that. We went through a period, of course, we've seen across, but as it pertains to North Carolina, we've had quite a few in the line of duty deaths, and it's unfortunate to bring another one to the forefront as it appears the deputy was killed, of course, on his tour here by a drunk driver who I think he had about 2 years, if I'm looking correctly, 2 years in the force, in service, died on December 16th. And it's very unfortunate that he would suffer that. What was so unique about it, I think, if memory serves me, he had took a sabbatical because he had went back to work, and a couple of days later he was killed.
Mm-hmm. True. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I tell you, we see this happen across the state, across the country, and recently, and I'll feature him in the next show. We had an officer killed up in Warren County, and he was on the way to assist in a call, and he was killed in a car wreck. and it's just sad times. And in the same week, at the same agency, one of the other deputies that was well loved also actually dropped dead with a heart attack. So two in one
Wow.
week at one agency. One killed in the line of duty. But let me tell you something about officers that die with heart attacks. You know, um, that's a line of duty death. There's no doubt. And back in the day, a few years back, myself, um, Andy Miller, Eric Weaver, Jeff Aldridge, and Randy, all of us got together and we fought really hard for a lot of things in North Carolina for officers um, as the organization. And one of the things that we fought for was the heart attack clause in North Carolina. If an officer dies with a heart attack within so many hours of an incident, and we got that, we have worked and lobbied to get that passed through. And a lot of officers, families have benefited from that because unfortunately, heart attacks in law enforcement is at a high rate. I mean,
Oh
because
yeah.
it's like I tell anybody, it's kind of like when people compare something. The difference is when you're sitting in your car and you're patrolling or whatever you're doing, you could be sitting there 1 second and then you're at full speed ahead in a matter of insta-seconds. You're out there, you're running, you're going after it. Same thing if you're in your car and you're going after somebody. The only difference is in your car, it's metal versus metal. When you're with all the
Correct.
things going but in your body, it's your flesh, it's your body, and the body is built to do so many things, but it's not built to overheat and be able to survive. You you can replace a pump, you can place all those things in a car, but you can't
Yeah.
replace a heart as easy, and you can't replace the body. So when you look at it, I tell everybody, think about how you operate your car, and then think about how the human body works to that officer sitting in that car. Then you'll know why, as they get older, they struggle with more issues of health. And because ask yourself, how many of the older law enforcement officers do you really know in life that live a healthy, long life? I retired at age 50, well, 52, almost 52. Some of these guys go until they're 65 years old,
Yeah.
and I've got my total 35 years in, but the same goes. So in the long term is people don't think so much about the health of an officer as much as they do other things, but it is a reality. It is out there, and we've got to do better by officers to even give them more than what they've got. They give them that little 25-year retirement here in North Carolina, but they also reduced what it looked like. It was a
Yeah.
reduction. It's not really. It was just something to kind of make certain people just go away, and we're not going to talk about it anymore. But it does help in certain cases where, let's say, you got a new sheriff coming in or something, and they're taking over, and it's 25 years in. At least now you at least walk away with some kind of retirement, whereas before you didn't. You just had what you had, and then that was it. So make it that I'll give it credit for that. So things like that. So we just got to make things better, and we're going to work hard at it. You and I, we're going to continue to do what we do because that's who we are. And I tell you, I appreciate everything you do for law enforcement too. So thank you very much, brother. But yeah, so what's on the agenda for
Yeah.
you? What you working these days?
Well, I've been working hard in the recent took place. I served on two different election forms as it pertains to the Wake County Sheriff's Office. I helped a buddy of mine, Beatty, run for sheriff, ran for any political office in his life. Grassroots campaign. I was his number one guy. Came up with ideas every day to try to um, become the success in a crowded field of seven Democrat sheriffs who was running the candidates. And one thing people ask me, be conservative and a Republican. Some people got it misconstrued. Some people got a little what we call clouded. They say, "How could you dare help a Democrat try to win a seat?" And here goes the deal. I told him from day one. Brandon was a personal friend of mine. I still stand by that. However, we have to look at law enforcement, which is very unique. I talk on my show, The Real Talk. You got to keep the Dems and left and the right of the Republicans out of it. We strictly look at law enforcement, who's good at making good decisions for his or her people, and who has the citizens in mind. That's who we want to go with. So this campaign, we obviously wasn't successful. However, then I went on to work with my former sheriff, who's a great man. Still have much respect for him, Donnie Harrison, as he tried to take back his seat. Also was not successful, but we do have a new sheriff in town, Willie. He has my full support endorsement. He's going to do great things. Happens to be a personal friend of mine, not as close as I am to him as I was Donnie Harrison, but however, I believe with his faith and his beliefs around him, he's going to do a good job. And what I've been doing as of late now, I take a little sabbatical from just everything as it pertains to the podcast show and politics. I'm back now. Took a little time. I think people have to know, Ricky, is that when you're running a campaign, whether win or lose, it takes a lot out of you. So took a little break. I'm back now. And I have great plans for 2026 as not going to release it on the show, but I look forward to launching my campaign. Everybody asked me over the year, what are you going to do? Is your time to stand up. You're fighting for everybody else. We want to see you. So I'm looking forward to the next 4 years. And in the next year or two, I'll probably release exactly what I'll be doing. But that I'm doing, and I'm excited. Of course, I'm in law enforcement. I love it. I am the voice of reason, and I will always be, whether I retire. I'm going to always defend and support law enforcement. So that's what I'm doing. That is exactly what I'm doing, Ricky.
Sounds like a winner. I know when you talk about campaigns, I did 3 campaigns.
Oh,
Full
yeah.
disclosure, I've admitted, when I think with the sheriff's races, you may have a Democrat only running and nobody else running. Republicans
That's right.
generally in a lot of counties don't jump up and try to run because it's like anything else. There's not enough Republicans to vote. So you end up wasting your
Yeah.
time and you can't garner support of enough money. And these certain counties are so indoctrinated with the idea and the concept Democrat versus Republican, it does move over into the law enforcement side of it. I will tell you, I have several friends that are Democrats that are sheriffs, um, and they have done a good job. But to me, some of the things they do, they're more of a Republican. They are a Democrat. They just, to me, it's almost like they're Republican in the Democrat Party,
That's right.
because the differences sometimes are very, very little, if any. Um, and I think that things that are on a national level that make a difference, that it does affect, unlike maybe in state races, on the national level, on your local county races, the county race for the sheriff is affected by national level politics. It's
Oh,
one
yeah.
of the few offices that are, um, but a legislative position in a state isn't really affected by the national because they're dealing with their local. But the sheriff does, in fact, have the constitutionality of everything that goes on for the sheriff, and it is affected by the laws of the federal government because they do federal versus local versus state versus ordinances. They're all there, and one does
Absolutely.
affect others so many times. So what you're saying about that, I see that. I just, for me, I look back and I see some of these races, and when you look at them, there are sheriffs that are so similar, and sometimes they fight to find that one difference that they can fight over to be that one edge up. But a lot of times, I think the better races, if you could get sheriffs more so do it, is what others have in common. You know what your common goals are, but those little outliers is where you make your issue.
That's
So
right.
you're talking about the issues, and you're staying away from all the other things that catapult your supporters into a whole different arena. And a lot of times, the supporters are more active and more fluent and more combative than the sheriffs themselves.
That's
And I'm
right.
not saying in every race, but it can
Hmm.
be that way. And North Carolina, the sheriff associations have figured out how to keep keep their policies in place by having a sheriff um, retire early, but having the votes lined up from county commissioners to appoint who they pretty much anoint to be sheriff. That's the
Mm-hmm.
thing that they've been doing across the state. And it was a well designed plan by the Sheriff's Association to do so. People criticize that, but that's actually smart on their behalf to do that. And many times the communities do follow that suit. So when you're looking at law enforcement and you want to come in and you want to throw a brick into some changes, or you want to go a different direction, it's very extremely hard to oust an incumbent. People don't realize how it
Correct.
is. But
Very hard.
so yeah, so Wake County went through that, and you know, Durham, they have an incumbent that, Democrats rule in Durham. So I mean, the legislative went in there and they pretty much drew a fence around. They drew a voting fence around Durham, and basically said, okay, all the crazy votes, all the crazy sport, we're going to just lock you guys in this invisible fence, and then we're going to let y'all play your own game. Don't come out and mess with us. We ain't gonna mess with you. And so they took a blue county and made it even darker blue. So I mean, it
Oh,
went
yeah.
from it was just crazy the way they did it, but because they incorporated some of Orange County, and I think what might have been some Person County maybe, or it may have been Caswell, I can't remember, but I do know that a lot of it we incorporated in, like for the Senate District 22. You know, they took that district and made it even stronger as a Democrat. Well, it was a hard one to beat anyway. Say they might as well. And to me, that definitely is a strategy. Because I had a legislator tell me one day, so we're just going to draw. And I had said this before years ago. I'd say, if you want to reduce the crime in North Carolina, put a fence around Durham and don't let anybody out, and you'll find out how your crime rate will drop across the state. Of course, I
Oh,
was
yeah.
running I was running for office when I said that in Durham, but it was a tough battle anyway. So I just say it is what it is. Sometimes you got to just stand toe to toe because nobody else is going to fight for the little guy. You know, that's just the way it
You're
is.
100% correct. 100% correct. And let me say this: I very much commend you. You not only did it one time, you did it twice, and have full support. Always say this: I love to see when former or current law enforcement officers run for
Mhm.
office. Only that we have to keep our morals, our values, our ethics in place. I've seen law enforcement officers run for political seats outside of law enforcement, talking all the way from local to your state and federal, senator, congressman, whatever it may be,
Mhm.
and they forget where they came from and they leave out law enforcement. And the whole point of them hoping that they would get these officers to help better the law enforcement community. But I've seen some all about it. You would think when you're talking to them that they never saw law enforcement, but you, my friend, you held the line, and you have my support. If you do it again, I think you should at some point. Again, most people don't understand, Ricky. It's a lot to it, but it's a lot.
Yeah. Well, I'll let my wife know you said that and tell her. So, yeah, just if you're ever going to run for office, let me give you a recommendation. Tell your wife first, not last. Don't wait for her to see a news report or a blip in the newspaper about it. That's just not a good thing to do. I don't think that's probably one of the worst things. Yeah, busy. It was sorry, honey. I was just too
We live,
busy.
yes,
Do I now?
we live and we learn. I say we learn, and that's one thing about it. You got to have a spouse, whether I'm not
Oh
married,
yeah.
so a girlfriend who supports what you're doing and going to be that voice of reason to tell you, no, you probably shouldn't say this, but I guess that I believe in my heart that someday, and it will come to light. And I say, go for it, brother. Do it again. We need you.
Well, I tell you, your biggest critic is your best critic is the person who's the closest to you.
That's right.
And I was out, yeah, speaking and having conversations and doing commercials or whatever. And my wife would throw out a question she didn't tell me was coming, and it wasn't an easy question. But she understands that I do well on my feet because I speak from the heart, and I tell based on life's experiences in law
That's right.
enforcement, we know what works that we see work, and we know what is BS and is just a money trove, you know.
That's right.
One of the things that I learned in the campaign, for me and for the listeners out there and the viewers out there, is I had to know what my local issues were, but I knew where my passion was, and my passion wasn't getting the airtime that I felt it needed to have, and my passion is for mental health. Now, think about this: I'm a Republican, and I'm running, and one of my biggest platforms is mental health. People say, "Well, that's not a Republican issue." Oh, it is a Republican issue. Unfortunately, they either don't know how to talk about it, or listen to the fact that people saying it's not a Republican issue. Because if you know somebody, and you do, and we all know people, we all have a family, we know whether it's in the family or people that we know that there are people out there walking around with serious mental health issues. And I don't care, it can
Oh
be
yeah.
depression, it can be any kind of mental health issue. And there by the grace of God go everybody at any given time for any reason. I tell everybody when I'm training new officers or when I was training them, is I'd say, you got to remember when you're going to a house and you're going to a disturbance, you're going to see somebody at their worst. They're not calling you because they want you to come to dinner. They're not calling you because they're having a wonderful day and they want to tell you about it. You're going to see people at their worst. So when you see them later and they're at their best, don't go up and talk about their worst. Be cordial, be friendly, and you've moved on from that. No need to bring it back. And because they may have been having a mental episode, but it's nobody else's business. It's not like you go and you may share that information with law enforcement officers who respond to these locations, but it's not something that you just arbitrarily go and start talking about and using people as an example. And we ended up in Durham, we flipped 6 districts in a heavy Democrat area because one of the issues that we took to the Junior League of Women, we took to the minority communities. We went to the Hispanic communities where mental health does run even more prevalent in the mental health for the Hispanic communities, and not because they're mine. It's because they're out of country. They are here. They're right, wrong, or indifferent. They're here, so they do a little bit more to survive. They are in running in circles. They may drink a little bit more. They maybe get up into a drug. They go out. They work. The whole thing is there, but they're in a different environment and it's a different element in which they live in to get through to the next day. And let's face it, it's tough out there. And so when you're running that platform, you can't sit back and criticize everybody because, like I said, they're by the grace of God go anybody at any given time for any reason. So you look at that person, you help them like they're your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, because at the end of the day, it matters. Mental health does matter for
Oh yeah.
people. And when you start talking that, I found that the people at Duke's, people at Durham Regional, I started doing a geofencing into those areas about the mental health platform. I pushed the mental health platform, and then I saw things start happening, and I felt pretty good in these areas. But the only thing that kept it from going further is we run out of time and money because people can't always believe that that's the issue that you can win on. But we flipped 6 city districts and they had not gone blue since 1980 when 2 Republicans won on a 2-year sweep and got put out the very next vote and then as a county commissioner. So that was back in I think it was like 19. Matter of fact, it was 1984 when I first started law enforcement. But they remained commissioners for 2 years and they got booted right back out. But the fact is they got elected. So the key is that whatever their platforms were and how they communicated worked, and politics is local. So that's what
Oh
I
yeah.
would tell the listeners and viewers. So yeah, campaigns are very tough to run and to struggle with. I've advised some on their campaigns and things like that, and it's pretty funny because have done it before. to go out there and say X, Y, Z. And you go say, don't do that, or this is going to happen, or do this, that happen. And then lo and behold, it's that trap door opens. It looks like it's a good thing to go in the direction of. And next thing you know, you're standing there explaining to the press whatever it is you might have said or done. My thing was, I really didn't try to explain to the press. I would just tell them, send me an email and I'll respond back in writing. That way I know what I have to say is going to make it where it needs to go. They're not going to cut anything. But yeah, that's kind of thing. So whatever you decide to do, yeah, I don't. And I've gotten on the Associated Press a couple times, and those kind of things. And Democrats called to kick me out of the party one time when I said something that they completely took out of context. But the Republican Party in state they didn't even get into it. They were like, "Hey, he can say what he wants to say. He's running his own campaign, So give him credit for that. But anyway, it's just a challenge. We're in a challenging environment right now for politics. Who would have thought that we would be in our country, a greatest country in the world, would be toppling down from within the inside? It's like we have a Trojan horse that's been inside the sport now. It's just like the Romans and the Trojan horse, and he sits in the White House. Just it is what it is. No, just it is. I think he took the Trojan horse plan and implemented it in North Carolina. I said something earlier. Just in talking with somebody, and they looked at me and said, "Please do not put that out. Do not say that on your show." So what I want to say is I'm not going to say, because it probably have traction, and it's not time. I'm not in the middle of the campaign, so I don't need any traction for that. But I have my own opinions about things. Fentanyl coming across the border. What do you think? I mean, as law enforcement, who would sign off to allow that to happen and sit back and watch it? I don't get it.
And watch it, and that's what we're doing. We're sitting back and watching a lot of things. First of all, that was unfolded under this administration that the Trump administration put in place. Now, what we're seeing, to piggyback off you, Rick, as it pertains to our border, we see that now they're trying somehow to make up for what they did in the beginning. And they told us they were going to do it. They were going to untangle the border wall. And that wall was built not on prejudice or anything of that nature. It was built on safety. And all of a sudden now we're getting them to put some makeshift wall up to add to it. But they should have never taken it down. First of all, our taxpayers' money paid for it. They should have continued what was started to keep our country safe. It's about safety. And like you mentioned, fentanyl, I know you're retired now. Thank God I haven't read up on it as of close as it pertains to fentanyl. One of the deadliest chemicals of drop there. Has no name on it, kills all, even with police officers dealing with it. So this is coming from countries, of course, southern border into our country and killing millions, right? And here we are saying it's okay, come on in, bring your drugs, bring your terrorism mindset, bring in your diseases, bring it all in, bring in your crime. And we're not going to stop it. We want you to come in. Because what we do know is that all the people that are coming in, it's for a voting purpose. That's what it's for. They continue they won't get their Democrat votes across because they're the ones who are misled. At one point, the black race was misled, still are misled, and that BLEXIT so much, moving blacks from the left. Okay, we used to say the black exit Democratic Party, changed the rhetoric on that, moving them from the left because we understood that the Democrat Party has not done anything for us, but they have did one thing. I think about they've been able to hoodwink us on Planned Parenthood abortion started by Margaret Sanger. That's the only thing they gave us, a right to help us kill our babies legally.
Yeah, and it's sad that the folks that I've talked to and they have introduced to that concept and the way of thinking that, look, you've been bamboozled here. If you think about who's telling you to kill your children, it's not me. I stand up and say, save the children. It ain't me. But let me tell you where to go to find out who started this whole thing. and it won't, and they didn't look like me. So, I'm and my thing is this:
Right.
when you tell people the truth and then you show them truth, they do one of two things. They either take it, look at it for a while, and eventually come back and say, "Yeah, you're right," or they take it and figure out 500,000 ways they can trash it and make it to be not truthful. But they can't do it because it's there. It's in black and white. It's pulled up on history. You can't take away history. Although our schools and the indoctrination have tried that. When we talk about fentanyl, here's my thing is, so if you're a president of the United States and the health of your child, you lose one to cancer, which is tragic. Tragic. He lost one son to cancer. But he had one son, or has one son, that has had this serious drug addiction. And it's, of course, the FBI tried to squash that, and everybody else, did through the state-run organization. And thank God it's not anymore. So you have that, and then you have a child, because no matter how old they are, they're still your child. But you
Oh
have
yeah.
somebody out there making those decisions, and they're struggling with the drugs, but yet you still don't shut down the drugs coming into this country. And it, to me, I'm at a loss for that, because if my child is addicted to drugs, I want to stamp out all the drugs. I want to put up a wall. I want to keep the bad guys away. I want to stop all the trafficking that's going on. And so I guess I'm a little miffed, because when you're a president of the United States, you got enough power to do that, and you got one child that died to a tragic sickness and cancer, and you have the other one that's struggled with the drugs, could overdose at any time, but yet you're not willing to put up a wall to even save your own child. I don't I mean, am I too far on left field on that? I mean, I just don't. I guess I think outside the box, but I think about being fair, compassionate. You got to be fair, reasonable, compassionate, firm. I mean, all the things that a parent does, you have to be. But doing the same thing when you see America's children dying, and they go down the same path that maybe your child has gone, lucky enough to survive, why wouldn't you want to shut down the border for the average family and protect their children? I mean, it's just a question, not making any accusations, but I guess I'm confused of why somebody wouldn't do that. You know, it's pretty tough situation to be in. I don't know. Your sound went out. Your sound is gone.
How about
Sound.
now?
Yeah, got you now.
Okay, we're on mute for a moment there. I will say that it's a very situation. You look at it, and obviously we can't speak for Biden, but what we do know is,
No.
and I'm not I'm definitely not a parent yet, but I do understand what you're saying as it pertains to that, Ricky. You have to look at the bigger picture, and if nothing else sticks, knowing that you have children, adult children, one who's
Mhm.
battling a drug addiction, you would take that and say, I'm going to put my family first. And if I don't do it for anybody other Americans, I'm going to do it. My son is struggling. But what we realize is that Biden's looking at the party, and they are not going for shutting the border down. Maybe he has inclinations or some reserve to do it, but he's going to do it because he's a coward, and he's cowered down to his party because he understands he's weak, and the only thing uplifting him is his party. So I believe that he's allowing them to overrule what really maybe he wants to do. Maybe he has no real, but it's
Mhm.
exactly what you said. If he had no other reason to look at his family uh,
Yeah.
or other families that is affected, he's not doing that at all. Come one,
Absolutely.
come all.
Right. And like you said, and it, to me, this is just about building the future Democrat Party, so that it would take away that there's no chance of having a conservative voice. It's no chance of keeping God in your schools. There's no chance of protecting our children from the horrific deaths, even after they're born, like the one Virginia previous governor and different and Hillary Clinton throughout. Oh yeah, you can abort them even at the last trimester, last month,
That's right.
up until birth, up until birth. And then even the one governor says you can take them out, keep them comfortable, and swaddle them in a blanket till you decide what to do. I'm
That's
like,
correct.
you got to be kidding me. What any this? So we're pushing those dynamics, and how are we doing? I think they're going to be a little bit more surprised because I think they're the the, the party's not giving the credit to the Catholic communities, basically, because a majority of the folks coming across that border are practicing Catholicism. They're Catholics. They're and but then again, when you have the church not really standing up to stand out against it, under whatever political duress or whatever it may be, um, I always question it because one of the things I said in my campaign was what I can never understand is you can go to church. Certain churches, you go to church on a Sunday, they preach love, tolerance, and then they won't stand up against uh, the death of a baby. They won't stand up against that. But then they will go to Raleigh or wherever they go, and they will protest the death row inmate being executed. But they
That's
won't
correct.
protest that child coming to this world being pretty much being killed right straight from the or right to the last month. And I always say I did. I had one preacher tell me one time, and he was real honest. He said, "Well, I have to look at my congregation and have to be careful on what I talk about and what I say because I don't want to run anybody away from the church." And I said, "Yeah, yeah, just like Jesus did." And he just looked at me and goes, "What does that mean?" I said, "Yeah, I mean that like he's going to run people away from church. If he ran people away from the church, he got their attention. He got what he wanted. He got them. It's just like Jesus got mad and when he went up to the market and started
That's
flipping
right.
the tables and what they were doing. Okay, they got and they left and they didn't come back or whatever was going on. Well, sometimes you have to take a stand and you can't just work your crowd. If you're doing a magic show, work your crowd. But if you're going to talk about God and you're going to represent God's word, don't treat it like a magic show. Tell it like it is. People,
Tell
if
it
they get
like
pushed, and that's, you know, I used to, when I was sitting in church, I used to laugh at this. I'd get into the church and I had this bad habit of swinging in like maybe about the last 5 minutes before it started, getting off of patrol or whatever, coming pretty much sliding in sideways. And I'd come in and try to sit near the back of the church, and my preacher would say, "Hold up, brothers and sisters. Brother Ricky, your seat's down on the front row down here. Come on. I'm not gonna let you sit back there." And it was a thing that we did almost every Sunday because I try to say, and look, a couple times I slid in there about 10 minutes late. He stopped the service and wait. No, no, come on up. You ain't no need to look back there. Come on up. So automatically then I come straight to the front. Sit down front because that's where he says, "I don't want you anywhere because that's where I'm used to finding you." And I kept saying, "Preacher, why do you got to find me?" he said, "Because you're out there in the midst of it all night long." He says, "And it doesn't
yeah,
hurt to get a little good." I said, "Well, I think I'll do pretty well." He goes, "Absolutely." He said, "But I love the fact that you're sitting there, brother." I said, "Well, he's since then passed away, but he and I had a great relationship. He was my preacher. I could confide in him, but he was a great friend. I could confide in him as the friend or the preacher, and we did a lot of work together for law enforcement and through the church and different things for different people. He'd always call me. He had an outreach, so it was always good. So I guess I'm saying that we've kind of gone away, but it gets back to community. That's to me that's not a Democrat issue. That's not a Republican issue. And if you belong to a party that doesn't do it well, try to do it better. You know,
that's
be the
right.
foundation. Be the foundation, working your way up for people to build on. Um, if that foundation is not there, And you can do that locally a whole lot easier than you could try nationally.
You're 100% correct. When you go back to the churches, the Lord Jesus Himself did that. He said, "Look, this is not a house of soliciting. We're not going to be here selling favors over because He was upset. This is a house of prayer, worship." What we've seen now that the churches have become weak, we know that, and not only that, they have a voice only when the voice is necessary. Yes, they give away food and they donate, they give back. But one thing that we're weak in, black, which is all of them, is that we don't stand up to the right to live, the right to be born. And at the end of the day, the Lord created life. So why are we not preaching that? And you're right, the Catholic churches are doing well at that, but they're still weak in that sense as well. The only way we're going to be able to beat this abortion thing is, like you said, it's not a black or white issue. It's not a Republican Democrat issue. It is a humanitarian issue, but it's also a Christianity issue and Catholic issue, whatever you want to say. But as Christians, we know it's our issue. We have to make sure that we're not killing our unborn, because what we do know is that the folks that are coming across the border, they are less likely to abort their babies. And the Democrat Party understand this. They are against abortion, but they do understand that Hispanics don't kill babies. So they realize that if they don't kill their babies, that means they produce their babies, and they produce multiple, right? They believe in that, not one baby, two babies, which is great. Life is beautiful. But they believe that those votes that are coming out are going to be the essential Democrat vote. So why not bring them into our country? Why not shrink down the black population, which we are the lowest on the totem pole right now as it pertains. Anyways, the population, I was looking at some numbers the other day. But a big deal. We talk about it in law enforcement. I did a show on it. You may not have had an opportunity to listen to it. A couple months ago. I did a show on abortion many months ago, actually. Talked about, is abortion murder? And the answer was yes. So I tied that into the law enforcement realm. Any type of killing that is intentional is a crime. And so abortion is a crime, and it should be held as that. We should put it on our criminal law books to charge anyone, a mother or a father, who signs off on abortions. And of course, the doctors need to be held responsible for getting paid millions to abort babies.
Well, like I said, it's definitely one of the hot topics that when you go that people do talk on the local level for that, because a lot of that money comes from local government, but it's replenished from the federal government now because they're pouring out money in anything they can possibly pour it into that's runs on the left side, so to speak. But
I
again,
agree.
it's just one of the things. So when you look at Twitter, the FBI admitted also that they were paying they were working with other platforms also. So I would love to see what they've done with Google and what they've done with Facebook. Because remember, everybody is being shadow banned pretty much on Facebook, Twitter. Couldn't get anything on Google for your shows if you're doing YouTube shows. Um, I was doing my YouTube shows. They were somewhat political sometimes, and sometimes it was a variety of entertainment stuff that I did. It's just what I felt like doing at the time. It was, I would introduce child prodigy. They'd come in there and you'd see that, but then the next show might be something political, something that tweaked out for that day. But then I was doing Facebook and putting stuff on Facebook, and then nobody was seeing it. It was like it was going up, poof, be gone. And then I would put it on YouTube. Same thing would happen. No views. And still to this day, YouTube does that. Any kind of view of any kind of politics, they're squashing it. So people aren't getting it. So they're doing other things, but they're not letting you have your voice. And it's like you said, it's state run. Everything seems to be state run from the government. And now we know that the FBI has taken full charge in making that happen, which is to a tune of $3.4 million even just for Twitter alone. Makes me wonder what they're spending for the other groups. And then you got to look at that and you think the leadership of the FBI has gone awry, because either the leadership and the director he's either too ignorant to see what's going on, or too naive, or he's intentionally looking the other way. You can't put $3.4 million into Twitter with 85 FBI agents and not know that you got an FBI task force pretty much running Twitter on what they want to put out for the government. And I just think that that's not even a slippery slope. That's being pushed off a ledge. That's a slippery slope. There ain't no slope. That's the Grand Canyon right there. That hole is bigger than the Grand Canyon. If you think about it, where do we go? Where do we go as a society when you can't have the right to freedom of speech because somebody in a woke atmosphere doesn't want you to speak, so they convince or tell the law enforcement basically to shut it all down. Where does law enforcement come in to start circumventing the Constitution and freedom of speech? I guarantee you, I get it. Twitter was privately owned. They say, "Oh, we can do what we want. We're privately owned." How many times did you hear that? We can do that. We're privately owned. We don't have to. Now that Elon Musk got it, is, oh my God, they're violating the constitutional rights. Oh my God, what they're doing. Oh, this is a third world country. Oh, it's so much hate speech. But then it's showing that there's more activity on Twitter now because people are coming back than's ever been before. And they're covering all different topics and saying what they can say. And there's not a lot of hate speech going on there. I applaud somebody who gets on there and says, "Yeah, it's my company, and you 7 reporters who are stalking my family by putting up things. Absolutely, I'm gonna shut you down. Why? Because I can. That's why. I own it. Now do something about it." The end. That kills the whole argument right there. That's it. I can do that. Quit stalking people's families. Quit harassing. So while it may not be hate speech, stalking families and putting real time where they may be, and I say I'm a billionaire. I don't want my family to know. I don't want people to know anything. I don't want to get up there and look and say, "Hey, Rick's family's at such and such a spot. Let's go over there and harass them like they did politicians in D.C." All the Trump politicians couldn't even leave the area without being harassed by folks. And would you have Waters? What's her name?
Maxine.
Maxine Waters. Yeah, I think. I don't know why she's so loud. I couldn't remember that name. I kept, and that was a name that the Associated Press jumped on me about because I had said something that they really didn't like, and it was meant to be funny. I thought it was. A lot of people thought it was, but they tried to turn it to what it wasn't. Because what I said is that Maxine Waters is to Donald Trump what Aunt Esther was to Fred. A natural hate for each other. And that's exactly what I think. Huh?
Did they make it a racist statement? Is that what they were going?
Oh my! And that's when they wanted me to give them a quote, have an interview, and I said, "Nope. Here's my email. You send me the questions. I'll email you my responses. I will not give you a verbal interview." Well, I said, and if you don't print everything I say, I'm going to share my email with everybody. Your questions in my email. And the guy said, "No problem. You got my word." I said, "Okay." And I responded, and the Capitol under the dome that day in Raleigh, when the news was over, if I'm not right, they gave me almost 3/4 a page because of what I wrote. And that's pretty powerful for them to do that. That race, our race, and then, I didn't tell people about it because I didn't want people to go, "Oh, you're making it up." I got a bunch of death threats from people and email threats and calls. So my 800 number to my website. But, I'm a law enforcement officer. I'm not going to lose any sleep over that. I'm well protected when I leave, and I'm well protected when I get home. So it's not my habit is I still look around. I still watch. I still see what's in the area. I still don't walk out blind, not looking around, to see what's going on, because that's the nature of who we are. That's how but that's how we roll for X amount of years. That doesn't go away.
Sure.
Once a lawman, always a lawman. It's in your blood. Somebody says, "What's your color?" I said, "Well, for a medical purpose, it's red, but for brotherhood, it's blue."
That's right.
You know, we bleed blue when we're out there. We don't look at the color of the blood. We're 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 completely we bleed blue. That's just the way it is, and
That's
that's
just
what I
the
love
way it
about
is. Hey,
it.
listen, I support that. I'm 100% with you. You look back on the Twitter and the FBI. My whole philosophy with the FBI is that they have really lost the sight of what they really should be doing. And I talk about it a lot about the law enforcement being the political pun, and all the way from the local
Mhm.
to the federal level. We
Right?
see the political pun being used in the FBI. They're not doing the job that Jay Agar, what is it? Jay Hager, right? Did I say it right?
J.
Um,
Edgar Hoover.
Jay, I don't know why I want to say Hoover. Hoover, the J Man himself established, which we found out later on down the road that he was also not 100% clean himself. But what we do know when he built the FBI wasn't to check out people's social media accounts and harass people and keep First Amendment speech suppressed. It wasn't to go into a former president's home and raid it with no legal binding information. As we know, I'm still looking. I don't know about you, Ricky. Still looking to see exactly what they found in Mar-a-Lago. Haven't never been released. Never been released. It
Yeah,
took
if they
the
found something, it'd be all out there.
It'll be all out there. They found something, and what we do know that the Fourth Amendment was not used properly either. So the FBI is doing things they shouldn't have any jurisdiction over. We have better matters that they could be involved in, especially as it pertains to worldwide issues. But yet they're coming after everyday Americans, and it's very sad. All
Mhm.
the way to the president, it's very sad what they're doing. And I see FBI agents all the time at the airport. And let me tell you something. I still think that it's a prestigious job, but when I look at these people and I talk to them, when they're coming in to fly armed, they have to come see us at the law
Mhm.
enforcement desk. I look at them and I don't really see a lot of clout anymore. I see that job as just being one that is just another law enforcement job, not much prestige in it as I used to believe it was because of what the FBI has been doing over the years. And maybe I'm wrong. I'm not taking anything away from them, Ricky, but I look at them as if they're just another Democrat political pawn to get to those who really have something to say. It's very sad because the First Amendment gives us that right to voice our opinions and our concerns, but now we've been labeled as disinformation, not
Mhm.
factual, and all this crazy stuff.
And yeah, and the proof of that is the fact that the media, the mainstream media's lips are tight with everything that the FBI did. They're not talking about the Bidens. They're not talking about Twitter. But what they can't avoid is the hearings that's going to be coming up. So
I love it.
they can't even pretend that they don't even see them because sooner or later, I mean, it will be obvious. And the thing is like I said, Twitter. Best thing that ever happened was Elon Musk purchased it. They said, well, he purchased a sick cow and it's gone. Well, no, you got to remember this with the business that he has, and you got to say Elon Musk is a unique individual first place because
Oh yeah,
he thinks so far out of the box on what he's doing that it's more explosive. It's
yeah,
fireworks way out in the zone. It's everything in another ozone that he thinks so far out to what he's doing that he's not looking at a small picture. He's not looking at a big picture. He's looking at the grand picture of what this world will and can be. Artificial intelligence. I mean, think about all the stuff he's working on with the cars and all the space. And I get it. Um, so he's got the biggest marketing company there is in Twitter.
oh yeah.
This is a perfect. He can tie all his companies and still work it through Twitter, still have a platform. I haven't had time, but I'm gonna with my. They talk about well, the blue check's gonna cost you $8 a month. So what? I'm gonna pay for the blue check. Big deal. I'm going to get the blue check, and and all the liberals can go sidewinded and losing their mind over it. But I'm gonna put the blue check on there just cause now you can. Before they
You
wouldn't let you do it. I tried to get all of it. Now they didn't want to do it. They never responded to anything. And when I would question Facebook about things, and they'd be like, "Well, like silence is golden," and say you're in violation of this. One time, I think I got hit with a violation. They put me in jail. I could see everything, but I couldn't post anything. I could read, anybody could post on all my posts, but I couldn't respond to anybody. I'm like, dadgummit. I tried every way.
Facebook,
Yeah. So I went on there and started do the copy. I'd take it and I'd copy it all out and cut and paste. And then I started putting it out on different things and different venues. This is what happened here and there, but it wasn't really getting any run on the Facebook. And Facebook is all about making money. If you watch, how they do things. And I think Twitter is going to be getting more into the line of making a little bit more money and things like that, which is fine. If a man wants to run his business through Twitter, or a lady wants to run her business through Twitter, that's her business. That's their business. It's a platform. It's a marketing platform. Do what you got to do. As long as it's legal, go for it. It's the way it is. But to sit back and say, well, it was a cash cow and it wasn't worth it. People say that. I don't think they really understand. I think his vision is a lot greater than just being standard Twitter.
I
I
agree.
mean, when you can reach what 300 million people or whatever billion people throughout the world, that's not a cash cow. That's a prize. And if you know how to use it, it'll be a bigger prize than you've ever had. But and I don't think see that's what happened when people don't think out the box. See, they stay in that little box, and you never become more of a player in the game. You then become the game. And I always tell everybody, do you want to be a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a big pond?
That's right.
One's got a better advantage, but at the end of the day, what's the biggest gain? So people have to make up in their mind what they want to do with their life, their careers, and based on where they are in life, and make that decision. Or maybe you just want to be that consistent turtle. You know, like the tortoise and the hare. Just
Oh
keep
yeah.
going. I know people like that too, and law enforcement. How many people in law enforcement like that that to go, just leave me alone. I'm going to do my job.
There's
No, I
plenty of.
don't want to be promoted.
We're seeing
I don't
that
want to be.
now more than ever, Rick. People who have seen, we all have seen it. They're defunding the police. You don't have my back. A lot of guys are saying, just leave me be. Let me just get my 30, and I'm out. Don't bother me. I won't bother you. We'll get the job done. No extras will be added.
Right, right. And it's it gets back to is again. I think so many times law enforcement they get caught up in the politics, the danger. Most people would rather fight the danger than they would the politics. Would you rather fight a politician telling you a bunch of lies, or would you rather fight a man with a gun or a knife? Most cops are going to tell you they'd rather fight the guy with a knife with a gun.
It's true.
It's just they don't. They'd rather deal with that. And here's the other thing: is how many times you had a lawman tell you, or anybody in government, I'm I'm not political. I don't do political. I'm not involved in politics. And you go, well, let me explain something to you. You're on this traffic duty. Why are you on traffic duty right now? Because there are laws governing these things. Politics govern your laws. Your mayor and your board hired a police chief. Police chief hire the officers. Officers go where the chief tells them to go, where the standard is, wherever you got to go. But don't you think that the mayor picks up the phone and says, hey, chief, look, church this weekend has got a lot of traffic coming out, and we're having our homecoming. Can you send a couple guys over there? And next thing you know,
Oh
you
yeah.
got officers over working Sunday morning. They're going, why are we out here? Why are we out here? You don't realize why you're out here. Well, you're out here traffic because the city told you to. But what you don't realize, is the mayor said to the chief, and the chief said to the sergeant said, Lieutenant over down, and voila, guess what's there? And why are you out there? Not because you decided to be, because the politician, the mayor, decided that's where you needed to have your butt Sunday morning.
That's right.
So, and I use that as a simple term. Is everything has politics in it. The bridges that you see, the bridges that are built, the contracts that are given. People can act like there's no politics involved. There's politics involved in everything. It just depends on to
Correct.
what extent, and what they do. So when people tell me is, oh, I'm just not a politician. Well, yeah, we unfortunately you probably are. You just don't realize it because you represent. But anyway, I tell you, I really enjoyed the show. You coming on tonight? We can do this again.
Absolutely.
Uh, if, yeah, if there's anything that you want to say, or anything that you want to say before cutting out, I know you got something else you got to take care of. But you know, have at it. It's your moment. It's your time. Go with it.
Yeah, listen, Rick, I want to first say thank you for having me on, and you know that the invitation will be reciprocated. I'd love to have you on the
Absolutely.
Real Talk. As everybody knows, I am the host of the Real Talk podcast show. That show is centered around law enforcement matters. We talk about the good and the bad of policing, and we're never going to defund the police. We'll always defend the police. Got a show coming up soon, Rick. It's going to be centered around the way the United States does its bidding as it pertains to hostage negotiations. Did some extensive research. I'm going to bring that show to the listeners very soon. But that's all I have, Rick. I definitely appreciate the time, and I look forward to the future in 2023 as we wrap up 2022. And I do wish you a safe and prosperous and a happy and a very special Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I look forward to bringing you on the Real Talk podcast.
Be glad to do it. And I'll be the hostage thing. I was a hostage negotiator for the sheriff's office, and served on a SWAT team for about 8 or 9 years. So yeah, I can
Yeah,
relate to all that. So yeah, that's definitely yeah, and that's a very unusual job for most people, but it is it's a very stressful job at times. But you know what? In the end of it, when things go right, it's well worth the time. They don't always go right, but for the most part, uh, you got to have them. And then, people don't
yeah,
realize that the SWAT team doesn't talk to the hostage negotiator if they know what's right. A lot of times you think they do, but they don't. One has to be here, one has to be there.
that's
So
correct.
whatever happens, that element of surprise has to be there. But again, yeah, definitely, I'll be glad to come on your show. Looking forward to it. Just hit me up. We'll do the schedule, and and again, like I said, I was looking at your site the other just today, and I thought about how cool, how would it be to honor all law enforcement officers in each and every show. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna start doing that. Recognize these officers that give up their life and pay the ultimate sacrifice, not only for their family, but for the community. And I feel so bad for the families because
Yeah,
dad or mom, who's got killed, used to be there and now they're not. And that's such a very that's a hole in the heart. That's just that is just an empty chair that just can't be filled, and a lot of anguish and pain for the family. And I pray for them, and you know, God bless them. And I'll tell anybody, I'll stand. I'll stand 100% behind law enforcement, and my prayers are with them. So, man, I appreciate you coming in.
sure.
Thank you for checking in, and finally getting our schedule together where we can do it. And I'll be glad to be on your show, absolutely. And
We'll have
God
a
bless
great
you.
time.
And just let me know. You pick up. You just let me know when and what, and I'm there.
We're going to do it. I look forward to it. Matter of fact, I think we'll stick on the hostage negotiation trail. So I'm going to do that show. Then I'll pick it up with the local law enforcement hostage negotiation tactics. I look forward to bringing you on. And I do want to say to the Navasco family, if I'm saying that correctly, the deputy who lost his life in Cumberland County, to the family, we are deeply saddened. You're in our prayers, and to Sheriff Ennis Wright. and the Cumberland County Sheriff's Office. They're in our prayers, and we wish you all great success.
All right. Thank you for coming by,
Thank
and
you,
we'll see
Rich.
you next time. I'll be talking to you soon.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity, brother.
All right, folks. What a great guest he is. He's done a lot, been a lot. Like I said, we traveled circles and just kind of happened to be seeing each other along the way, and that's how we kind of met years ago, working an off-duty gig. But after that, hadn't seen him for years, and he just popped up at some of the events that I was going to, and so I've been following his podcast also. And like I said, once you're a law enforcement officer, once you get in the line of law enforcement, once it's in your blood, you can't get it out, because not only when you do it, you're out there working hard and doing the right thing, but the fact is that you want to continue to support those guys, and I do that each and every time that I can do that. And let us remember our fellow officers that are killed in the line of duty each and every day. They said there were over 60, or right at 60 now, that have been killed in line of duty by violence. People will say, "Oh, it's a gun crime. It's a this, it's a that." It's not a gun crime. It's a person crime who happens to use a gun. When you see people get killed by a knife, you don't first say, "Oh yeah, he died with a knife crime." Nobody puts in statistics that say, "Hey, it was a knife crime," or a DWI gets out there and runs into somebody. "Oh, it was a car crime." It's a crime, folks. The choice of weapon and the method, it's still a crime. To use it's like the Dems used to use the word weapons of war. And it could be a 22 rifle looking like an AR-15, and it's still a 22 caliber rifle that's squirrel hunting. So listen to what people say and understand what they're trying to present, as opposed to what they're really saying. Because sometimes it just doesn't make sense, and anybody can do it. So I'm not just going to give the Democrats the credit for that. Anybody can actually do that stuff. But again, we had a great show. We kind of covered all the different areas. We talked about Twitter. We talked about the different things that, how about $3.4 million that Twitter received from the FBI? Folks, come on. $3.4 million is not a walk in the park, and it's not sitting around in the bins with coloring books, talking to each other and showing each other how well you can color. A lot more was going on for that $3.4 million that Twitter has put out there and actually shown. So I would say to you, be cautious of what you don't hear from the mainstream media, as opposed to what the truth is. Search for the truth. Go to the right stations. I'm not going to tell you which ones to watch, but actually go to the stations and do your own research. Read it, check it, and then you'll know what to believe. But I can tell you this: there's the information out there, and Elon Musk is putting it out there. So I say, Elon, I know you can't hear me because my podcast show probably not going to get to you, but you keep doing what you're doing. America will stand behind you. We're gonna do that 100%. You put out the truth. We may not always agree with you all the time, but put out the truth, and you'll get the support of just about anybody out there. There'll be a few people that's still going to go wacky, noodled up over everything. So, you can't please everybody. And yes, I'll take your CEO job. By the way, doesn't bother me a bit. Won't hurt my feelings. You can hire me. I'll take care of that, and we'll have some fun and we'll get it straight. We'll show them how to run it. But anyway, so yeah, I'm applying for the job. Reach out, and grab me. I'll talk at you. Anyway, thought I'd throw it out there, folks. Job application on the way, right? But anyway, no, I'm only joking. So anyway, here's the deal. This is your America. It doesn't belong to the White House. It doesn't belong to the president. It does not belong to the Congress. It does not belong to the Senate. It belongs to you. It belongs to you, the everyday working blue collar American. Proud of your country. May get upset with it at times, but proud of your country, proud of your flag. That's who we are. That's what we do. And as I always tell you before, and I continue to always tell you again, is when you're out and about, be right, be real, be safe, and always, always, always be ready, because you never know when the wolf will come knocking at your door. And folks, hope you enjoyed the show. Come back to see us again. And with that, we're out. Have a great Merry Christmas. Enjoy your family, enjoy each other. Pray to your God, thank God, and be happy. Life can be good. And for me, it is, folks. Merry Christmas.